A warm welcome and assalamu alaikum to our Muslim brothers and sisters. I hope I did get that right. You're just in time for your favorite segment this Friday on Our Views, and this morning we have an incredibly interesting conversation that we are going to be having this morning. Also, today is April Fool's Day, so just in case you are fooled, we might also be pulling a few fooling stunts this morning. So watch closely and let us know if you got yourself fooled. But joining me on this conversation are the ladies, and to my far left I have Apollo Sarah, and then I have Agi Uwase. And this morning we are talking about, and we're going to dive into the subject issue in regard, is it ever okay to spank or correct or even to discipline your child in public? What does this mean? I mean, psychologists say, and I was actually reading a report, and it said 80% of the children that are disciplined in public actually have issues with self-esteem. They end up being bullies, but they also feel that they cannot even come out of the crowd to defend themselves because their parents or guardians or people that live with them are publicly always disciplining them. And that is the conversation that we are going to have this morning. Is it ever okay to discipline your child while others are watching? Well, you can head on to our Twitter platform, that is at CTV Uganda, and let us know what you think. And later on, towards the end of the segment, we'll be reading your responses. So ladies, it's a Friday. You know, we're getting into the festive week, not festive, but fasting period. Well, for very many people, especially our Muslim brothers and sisters, tomorrow being anticipated to be Ramadan. But the question that we are discussing today, is it ever okay to discipline your child in public?
When you talk about disciplining your child it's relative. Are you spanking, beating them? Are you having a firm conversation with them? Are you holding them accountable for their actions? So what is it? If it is about physically harming them in public, I do not subscribe to that, whether in public or whether privately at home, because there are many implications that come with, physically, beating your child. It may work for some children, they get it through their head immediately the first time you papa, you get, but then there are some who just become a lot more resilient to being disobedient and being rebellious. So it's very important to also know the type of discipline mechanism that works best for your child. However, I do support the cause if, say for instance, your child hits another child in public. I think it's best that you address the situation there, and not with hostility, not with violence as well, you understand? But with cautioning them, holding them accountable for their actions, and most importantly, making them apologize to the other child that they have harmed in public. So if it is about them doing something wrong in public, we are going to treat it in public, okay? Because you did it there. If you did it to somebody else, say you abused somebody, or you shouted at somebody, or you offended somebody, we are going to deal with it there and then. I'm going to call you out and say, no, we're not doing that. Apologize. Do you know what you did wrong? What happened? Apologize, don't ever do it again. Do you get what I mean?
Yes. So how about you, Agi? Do you think it is ever right, and let me rephrase from the question I asked Sarah, do you think it is ever right to cane a child, for example, in front of a fellow child or in front of their peers?
Well, for me, it's a yes and no. And the reason I say no, I start with the no because I kind of share the same sentiments with Sarah when it comes to punishing your child in public. First of all, it's bullying. So many parents talk about my child is being bullied at school, but the moment you punish your child in front of every other child, remember, okay, let me take it back to the African setting. While they're spanking you, they're not quiet. They always add on so many things. The other day you did this, you're a bad child. It follows up with so many verbal, okay, I don't know if it's verbal punishment, but that's what it is.
Verbal abuse, yes.
Yes. And then it's really, it's bad for the child's emotional health, and at the end of the day, these other kids that have watched you punish your child in front of them, they'll always use it against them. I'll give you an example. Back in school, there are times when these very indisciplined children in school, they would call their parents and they call an assembly. Like from primary 1 to primary 7, you're all there and you're watching this child being punished by their parent in front of everyone. after the punishment, usually you'd find a child is now excluding themselves from everyone else because because everyone is laughing at them. Everyone is saying they punished you the other day. The moment
they ridiculed you,
they ridicule them. Every time they do something, that they're going to call your father. He's going to punish you again, just like last time. You go to class and everyone is literally laughing at the way you were crying and all that. So it's really bullying. And it's also bad for the child's emotional health, like I said.
And
but then
self-esteem.
again, yes. But then again, I only agree if, let's say, it's a family setting and there's 5 siblings and one has done something bad, it's okay to spank them in front of their sibling because, I mean, they will know that I'm not supposed to do that. But punishing them in front of every other person, honestly, for me, it's not a good idea at all. It's better, first wait until you get home and then you can punish them and you can punish them back.
I think that is still being hypocritical, because if you are condoning a negative act, a bad act of your child, and you see him or her doing it, or you've heard that they have done it, and then you choose to punish your child in private, yet what they have committed, they committed it.
It depends on what they have committed.
You choose to punish your child in private, yet what they have done, they committed it in public. However, you highlighted something, and it's among the questions that I was going to ask, that even as we say, because for very many children, I mean, I will give you an example of a friend of mine that I went to school with. He was punished for coupling in school in front of the entire school, and that broke his self-esteem, it broke his ego, it just completely watered him down. But again, he learned his lesson. He learned that you're not supposed to couple in school. But you gave an example of punishing your child or disciplining your child in front of their fellow siblings. I would say that is also not right, because you see, especially when for example, if it's a boy and girl setting, you don't want to maybe punish the boys in front of the girls, because it has a certain way they make them feel. And I kid you not, especially amongst siblings, when you punish one sibling in front of the other, trust me, it will be a laughing joke. I have experienced it throughout my lifetime. Every single time my parents punished me in front of the rest of my siblings, it made me feel smaller, because you're forgetting that yes, this is family, but you're the one being punished. I would prefer, and this is what actually I would say parents would do, before you even think about disciplining your child, put them aside, say, Sarah, you did this and this and this. You are playing football, you lost your shoe, I forgive you. The second time you are playing football, you lost your trousers, I forgive you. Now this is the third time you're losing your soccer boots that I bought you, and now you're going to be punished. Exclude your child to avoid, because also still that is literally public shaming. You're literally shaming them as well. Pull them aside and then discipline them. So are you trying to say that it is still okay to punish your child in front of his or her fellow sibling?
Yes, that one is different, honestly. It's different
there is
because
nothing
you
different
are siblings.
about it.
Yes, and they have also watched the other sibling be punished in front of them. So it will actually stay in the home. Rarely will you go out and say, my brother was punished yesterday because of this and this. But even then, the other people or the other kids that you are telling that did not see it happen. So for me, well, we were punished in front of our siblings. Didn't we turn out right?
Well, there were people who were punished in front of the schools. Didn't they turn out okay?
No, this is the thing. I think it's very important to understand why you would be taking drastic measures in public, whether in front of the siblings, whether in front of the school, whether in front of, I don't know, bystanders at a border stage, and whatever the case may be. Why are you doing it? Are you trying to set an example? Are you trying to correct bad behavior? Are you trying to assert your dominance over your children? It's very important to understand that. When parents discipline their children or say one sibling in front of the other siblings, I think the right thing to do would be to do it to set an example, to set precedent, not to assert your dominance over them where I am the parent and you are not. And I think it's also very important when you discipline your child, or you're going to say spank them, let them understand why they are getting this punishment. And if there are other siblings, that tell them, when you do this, it is wrong. And it is just, exactly, and it is not enough to say don't do it. They need to understand why they should not do that, why they should not hit people, why they should not use abusive language and all those things. And even when you're punishing your child, it's very important for a parent to reflect and say, okay, my child is using a curse word. Where did they hear it from? Do I curse? Okay? So it would be very hypocritical for me as a mom to beat my son for using a curse word he might as well have had me using. You get? We need to also check ourselves. And then also with the thing of public, like I agree with you. It is public shaming in primary school, boarding school. Do you know what they used to do to the children who never used to bathe on time? Because we had allocated times for different dormitories when they use the bathroom, and it was very common, especially with the boys. And because boys, they like to do everything else but bathe. Sometimes. So they would call for an assembly in the quadrangle between the dormitories, between the boys' end and the girls' end, and then publicly strip this child and bathe him, scrub him in front of everybody. Do you understand what
But
I'm
it
saying?
happens. That is the public.
Yes,
that is
it
the
happens.
public
That's what I'm saying.
discipline that we're talking about.
No, that is not disciplining at that point. That is humiliating. You are beating down on this child's self-esteem because you are stripping him down to nakedness. Because our nakedness is when we are naked, we are most vulnerable. That is why we are quick to, when something happens, you understand, because we are most vulnerable at that time. So that there can break a child, can mess with their self-esteem, can put them in an even worse situation now where they're going to be bullied by other children, calling them, that's why your body part is, small, or whatever the case may be. Do you understand? So are you doing it to set precedent or set an example to correct behavior, or are you doing it to show that I am bigger than you and you can't do anything about it? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So I am for public punishment, or rather disciplining, if the act was committed in public and somebody else was affected. Correct it right there and then. Because sometimes when you don't address things as they happen and you wait to go home, say for instance your child was at school or was on the playground and you saw your toddler hit another toddler, and just get the toy and smack him on the head. If you wait to address it when you go home, the child may have even forgotten, or may now think that this is so trivial, why are you making it such a big deal? Yeah. So sometimes it's okay to handle it in that situation.
Absolutely. But would you say, and the children, and I've been in a couple of families and I've interacted with a couple of children, and children are very blunt and very, very annoying creatures. So this particular child, I went into the home and she was being punished for stealing. She stole a pencil and a book and a sharpener. Well, anyone would say those are small things, but a sin is a sin regardless. So anyway, she stole them, and her mother and parents, her mother and father were beating her. So she told her dad, "You're beating me for stealing a pencil, a sharpener, and a book, but you were in the news that you're a thief. The news has labeled it that you're a thief, that you're embezzling funds. Why are you beating me for the same things that you do?" And he point blank told him, "Why are you beating me for the same things you do?" I think at a point, even as parents, as we discipline our children, let us ask ourselves, where are they getting these character traits from? The apple doesn't fall so far from the tree. So do you think that should be a reason as to why parents shouldn't be instilling discipline if these traits are actually coming from them?
Absolutely not.
No. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is that just because you stole as a teenager does not mean your child, it's okay for your child to do it. Let me give the example that was in the news recently, when Mr. Robert Chagulani's son was called out by his son's headmaster for doing what he did. It's illegal. It's not allowed by the school. But then many people on social media were saying, but the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and all that stuff. I would assume, as a parent, if I was in that situation and my child is doing something that I did, it is very important to think before you act. You need to have to explain to your child the circumstances under which you started saying that behavior or did that thing. Because your child's defense is going to be, but you did it also. Everybody knows there's pictures, there's photo evidence, exhibit A, exhibit B. Do you understand? So it's very important to let your child, and in this matter, actually physically beating your child is not the case. Punishing your child is not the case. Having a conversation with them is the right way to, correct this whatever the situation may be. It could be from, fighting in school, or bullying, or stealing, or, engaging in illegal substances, whatever the case may be. In this case, it is having a conversation with them about it. And I think even as a parent, should I ever be in that situation, I think even to take it a step further, especially if you're an influential figure, is to hold a mentoring session where you extend this conversation to other children, your child's peers. Do you get what,
Yes.
am I making sense?
Yes.
Extend the conversation to your child's peers, because at the end of the day, we want our children to be better than we were.
Okay.
And punishing should never come from the place of, I am the parent, you are the child, I do as I say.
Okay, so as we wind up the conversation, my last question would be, so how can parents that are watching this morning best discipline their children without necessarily creating a public shame? I'll start with you, Agi.
First of all, you just have to have the conversation. Even when you're disciplining your child back at home with their siblings, if they have done something wrong, first, call all of them, the siblings, sit them down, tell them, she did this, you saw what she did, and it is wrong. For that reason, I am going to discipline the child. I'm going to discipline her. Even if it's in front of them, they will understand that you're being punished for something wrong, and they will always avoid, doing the same, because they know they are going to be punished.
Okay.
And then again, I maintain my stand that do not punish your child in public. Let's say you're in a family gathering. There's cousins, and your child does something really bad. Do not discipline the child in front of them. Sarah talked about, if you're to say that you're going to discipline them when you go back home, they'll have forgotten. But our parents did that. They would watch you do it, and then they just give you this eye of, you're doing something wrong, and then you know what, you get back yourself, you put back yourself in the right.
You align yourself with.
And then when you get home in the evening, they call you properly, and they're like, today you did this. Do you remember that? I couldn't punish you in front of everybody, but I'm punishing you right now.
Today, not today.
Yes. So I feel for me, that is the only right way to punish a child. But first of all, let them know what they have done is wrong. Have that conversation with them before you just punish them. And then again, while you are punishing them, do not start throwing these words. The other time you did this, all those words that parents really throw at kids, those insults. I feel like they are very bad, and they encroach, or rather they cause bad mental or emotional health to a child. It's not a good thing at all.
And finally, Sarah.
Our parents are like the internet. They never forget. They like to remind you, even the other time you did this. But this is what I'd like to share. In the case of, if you're taking your children out, say for a party, or they're going to the playground or to the swimming pool, whatever the case may be, it's very important to set boundaries and caution them before you leave the house. Tell them, you're not fighting today. You're not going to use you set clear boundaries, and tell them, if you break any of these rules when we are outside, there are going to be consequences. This is what you should expect if you do the opposite of what I have asked you to do. Number 2, ensure that your child is well fed before they leave the house. Okay. And number 3, please avoid taking your children, especially if they're toddlers or still in their infancy, you get, to places like supermarkets where there are toys, where there are pastries and all these nice things that they like, because your child sometimes is going to give in to the urge to want.
And they are children.
And they are children. When your 2-year-old sees a toy tractor and sits in it, to get him out of it,
you'll have to
call police. So avoid these places that, it depends on the age of the child. Avoid places that are going to put them in a situation where they're going to, throw a tantrum.
Okay, so mine would definitely be, I think as parents, even as we, instill discipline in our children, it's very important that you ask yourself the question, why am I instilling discipline in this child?
Yes.
And also it is important that a child gets to understand that you're being punished because you did this, and that is why you're being punished. Secondly, punishment can be in very many ways. It could be physical, it could be verbal. And if your parent, let me tell you, there are parents who will not physically cane you or slap you, but the words that come out of their mouths are so hostile that just one word is already a representative of one chiboko. So let's learn to discipline our children in the right way, and also let's avoid public display of discipline, because again it goes back to public shaming. Now, we did post this particular question on our Twitter platform, and we asked, what are your thoughts on physical or verbal punishment of children in front of outsiders? Well, we have our responses coming in, and our first tweet comes from @homegirl411, and she says, rephrased, this would be, what do you think about embarrassing a child before guests? What does the verse in the Bible say? Do unto others as you would have done for yourself. No one would want to be embarrassed, child or not. That remains disguised abuse. Our next tweet response comes in from @Adams Bayambala, and he says, it's normal where we grow up from. They used to beat the hell out of you. I remember parents used to come at the school and beat their children in front of assembly. Contemporarily, it's bad that the world has changed beating and is no longer a solution for anything. And that wraps up the conversation that we had for you this morning on our views. However, Ramadan is around the corner, and the ladies have a few very short messages to share to our Muslim brothers and sisters. And I'll start with you, Aggie.
Well, for me, my only message to Muslims, brothers and sisters, is be kind. Be kind to everyone. It doesn't matter who they are. It could be your workmate. It could be at a restaurant where you go to have your iftar from. It could be, a stranger. Just be kind to everyone, because sometimes people are going through really terrible situations. Yes. And that one act of kindness or how you speak to them really impacts on their life. So that is it from me. Be kind.
Okay. And for me, it's just fast for the right reasons. Don't do it for anybody else. Do it for yourself, so that you can bring yourself closer to Allah.
And that winds up the conversation that we had for you this morning on our views. Keep watching Sunrise at Sea.